How's it going, guys and girls? Welcome back to another video here today. Axel Williams here. Axel Williams, the big A-X. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But we're back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about game company Konami. Konami! Oh shit, I've just done something racist again. That is not actually intentional though. I'm just literally trying to be slightly... I'm just basically expressing my personality and it just comes out this way. Oh god. Apologies. We can start over if you want. But look, Konami. One thing about Konami is... This is something I've always thought. Are Konami the worst game development company of all time? Are Konami the worst game company in general of all time? Now we look at great companies. We look at Rockstar Games. We look at, you know... what can I think of other game companies right now? We've got Rockstar Games. You know, we've got 2K, who have made some pretty good games. We've got Capcom, who have made, obviously, in the main, Resident Evil. You know, there's a lot of great game developers out there. Let's put it that way. Konami, are Konami in that bracket? Now, when I think of Konami, right, there's only a couple of games that I think of, and that is Silent Hill and Pro Evolution Football, or otherwise known by most people in short as PES. Now, look, the reason I'm making this video is a couple of reasons, really. Number one is I genuinely believe that Konami are arguably the worst game company of all time. And there's reasons why I believe this. And number two, the second reason why I'm making this video is because I want to see if you guys agree with me, or I want to know what you guys genuinely think of Konami. Because obviously everyone's got their opinions, everyone's got their views on certain game companies, and this is mine on Konami. But you guys and girls might not agree, you guys and girls might think something different. But let's start with, you know, the pros and cons of Konami. Now what we have to say when we're talking about the pros of Konami and the positives about Konami is they have came up with one of the most iconic games of all time in Silent Hill. Now Silent Hill, look, I'm not taking anything away from Silent Hill. Silent Hill is arguably the most unique horror franchise in terms of video games in the world. You know, Silent Hill 2 in particular, obviously, has been voted by many as the greatest horror game of all time. And Silent Hill 2 is fantastic. Got a fantastic storyline. The depth of the actual story is absolutely mind-blowingly wow. It's wow, wow, wow. You know what I mean? It's like when if you were to walk into a room and see someone you really fancied naked, you'd be like, wow, that is basically Silent Hill 2. You know, when you first play that game, and even when you play or see the remake of Silent Hill 2, the first thought is, what a great concept, what a great idea, what a brilliant in-depth storyline, and what a fantastic horror game. It's psychologically terrifying, and Silent Hill 2 is a masterpiece of horror. But this is the thing. Right, I've played every single, apart from probably, I think the only one I haven't played is the first Silent Hill on the PS1. Silent Hill is a great franchise. But there's one thing, right, that Konami always seem to get wrong, and this is my honest take, is gameplay mechanics. Now, Silent Hill, like I said, it's a fantastic psychological horror game, but the gameplay mechanics have always been poor. This might just be me, in terms of my overall opinion, but I've never actually found the gameplay mechanics in Silent Hill to be particularly smooth. It's always very rigid, very kind of difficult to control. And this was no more probably demonstrated than in Silent Hill 4. You play as Henry Townshend, who's obviously, his room has been haunted. His room, basically, he lives in an evil apartment building, and it's because the room he lives in is evil due to the fact that there is a dead guy behind the wall that's basically cursed the property. And then this big hole appears in the wall that takes him into this evil realm. But the gameplay, and again, the story is fantastic, the plot is brilliant, the characters aren't particularly good, but the storyline is fascinating. And Konami are the masters of telling stories. They can tell some of the most fantastically brilliant, creepy stories ever. But the gameplay mechanics, the actual in-game is also what's very important. When you look at Resident Evil, I've always found Resident Evil's gameplay to be fantastic. You know, Resident Evil's game, I mean, look, you can look at Resident Evil 1 and 2 on the PlayStation 1 and say it's basically tank controls, but it's PS1. But it's still quite a free-moving game, you know. The inventory setup's pretty cool. The actual shooting mechanics are pretty good. It's only really the turn, and you have to do literally like a 360 turn to be able to change direction. But it is PS1 after all. We have to cut it a bit of slack, and it obviously started off all those pre-rendered background stuff. So Resident Evil's got a lot of fantastic things. But you could arguably say that Resident Evil's, in terms of the actual storylines, are not as interesting as Silent Hill. I do believe the characters are miles better in Resident Evil. I believe the monsters, you could probably, you know, I think anyone could probably debate which monsters are better. I think Resident Evil's monsters are better than Silent Hill's as well. But Resident Evil's always been a better game. And when we go back with Silent Hill, Silent Hill 2, like I said, is a fantastic game. Silent Hill 3, it's just pretty much Silent Hill 2, but not as good. Silent Hill Downpour was one of the worst games I've ever played. The gameplay mechanics are absolutely awful. The creature design, everything about that game is awful. Now, this is the thing with Konami. This is what I always look at when I think of Konami. I kind of class Konami as a pocket change kind of company. Like, they make games on pocket money. I know that's not possible, but you kind of get the concept of what I'm trying to say. You look at PES, right, they don't have any official rights for teams. They have about 6 or 7 kind of stadiums. They have the rights for like 2 teams or 3 teams per game. You look at FIFA, they've got like about 100 stadiums and they've got the rights for every single football club. You know, the Arsenal team, my team, you wear the Arsenal shirt. It's officially the Arsenal shirt. You know, Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, whoever you support, Spanish League, Italian League, you know, Dutch League, whatever team you support, they have the rights for those teams. PES have never been able to do that. Now, whether that's because of where they're situated, whether that's because of the actual orientation, like, not orientation, like, basically from, is it because of where Konami are based, that they can't get the rights for certain teams? Because obviously, EA Games, I believe they are, obviously, they are able to get the rights for every single team. Is that due to the fact that Konami are based in a certain place, so, like, licensing is different? I'm not quite sure. Or is it just the fact that they haven't got the funds to be able to have, they haven't got the funds to be able to make a game and also have top gameplay along with official rights. Maybe you can tell me that, but I always class Konami as a pocket change kind of company. Now, when we look at PES, I've never found PES as good as FIFA. The only time PES was as good as FIFA was probably on the PlayStation 2. I thought PES was better than FIFA then when you've got the early PES like 2004 to 2007. I think those PES games were better than the FIFA games on the PS2, but once the Xbox 360 came out on PS3, PS4, PS5 and so on, Xbox One, PES kind of went here and FIFA just kind of went up here somewhere. And it's the same really when we look at Silent Hill versus Resident Evil. And this is why Capcom, because, you know, this is the thing with Konami. Konami are constantly in competition, aren't they? Konami are in competition, so to speak, with Capcom, Silent Hill v Resident Evil. They're in competition with EA, FIFA versus PES. But they're always playing the chasing game, because for me, Silent Hill, people might say it's a better game, it's a better concept than Resident Evil, but let's be honest, let's speak facts. Silent Hill will never ever be as big as Resident Evil. Resident Evil is a bigger franchise and a bigger, more broader title than Silent Hill. And there's no debating on the second one that FIFA is a much more broader, more famous title than PES. FIFA outsells PES, and I'd imagine Resident Evil every single year will outsell Silent Hill if they were to kind of make yearly games. It's just the way it is. Resident Evil is a different entity, and Konami, for all of their efforts, just can't seem to beat their rivals, and that's how I see it. But like I said, on the PS2, you could even argue that Konami and Capcom were kind of level. You know, you had Silent Hill 2, you had Resident Evil 4, both fantastic games in different ways. But one thing I will say is that when it kind of changed to Xbox 360, PS4 and PS5, Resident Evil kind of skyrocketed and Silent Hill kind of, you know, Konami and Silent Hill just kind of stayed at this one level, whereas Capcom started making Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil Village. Resident Evil 6 obviously is a pile of shit, Resident Evil 5 is not particularly good. But you get the gist of what I'm saying. Capcom have always kind of been more of an in-demand company for their games. Obviously, Konami released the Silent Hills PT, which obviously a game that had a playable trailer, but the game was never fully released. But I have to give it kudos. Silent Hills PT inspired a hell of a lot. There's a lot of horror games, in this day and age, there's a lot of horror games that I play today or have seen gameplay trailers for today that are completely inspired by Silent Hills PT. So Konami are still doing certain things right. But just the fact that Silent Hills PT was cancelled for me as well, it almost feels like it's only a Konami game that could ever be potentially that big and get cancelled. You know what I mean? I don't think you'd ever see EA Games make a big game and it get cancelled, or Capcom make Resident Evil 9 and it ends up getting cancelled for whatever reason. It always feels like Konami just always have these kind of quirks. You know, they make cheap games, they can't get licensing, the gameplay mechanics are never particularly good, games get cancelled. And another example of Konami as well, this is probably a game in my view that sums up Konami perfectly, and that is the Saw franchise games. You know, they made Saw Flesh and Blood, and I think they made 2 Saw games, didn't they? Obviously, it's fantastic for people who love the Saw movies to be able to play Saw the game, but the gameplay mechanics are absolutely shocking. They are shocking, and the response time as well. I was playing it once, right, on my PlayStation, or it was actually Xbox 360 at the time, and I was playing it, right, and I think you have to press, I think it's either X or square you have to press to actually swing, like, you've got like a club or like a nailed bat, and you have to swing it at your, someone in front of you who's trying to kill you, one of your enemies. I was playing this game, right, and all I'm thinking is, okay, I'm walking towards him, I'm going to wait my time and I'm going to swing and I'm going to kill him. I'm pressing the button, and within no word of a lie, he probably, the response time, he probably swung that bat about 3 seconds after I pressed it. I was thinking, swing, swing, fucking swing! And he didn't swing. And, literally that's kind of, I always feel like Konami just can't get gameplay mechanics right. I think in PES they focus too much on, kind of the graphical enhancements rather than the actual in-game gameplay, because the gameplay in the latest PES games and probably the last 6 or 7 PES games for me has been absolutely shocking. I'm not saying the new FIFA games have sensational gameplay. I think they've actually taken a step backwards as well. But if you had to make a choice between getting the latest PES game or the latest FIFA game, 90% of people choose the latest FIFA game because PES is not that good. And obviously you want to be able to play as your favourite teams with, with primarily all the licenses for those teams. If I want to play as Arsenal, I want to play as Arsenal. I don't want to play as North London Reds with a picture of the sun as their crest. I want to play Arsenal with a picture of the cannon, the famous crest on the shirt. I don't know why. I always thought though, like I said, do Konami lack licensing because of where they are, because of where their company is based, or is it just for the fact that they can't afford to have main licensing for, for big time stadiums or every single football club? I'm not sure. But Konami, I've always called them the pocket money company, because they always seem to make games for me that are always lacking something. They always feel a bit cheap and a bit tacky. Whereas companies like EA Sports and Capcom, and Rockstar Games, obviously specifically, can make these high-end games with sensational gameplay. And that, for me, is the big difference with those companies to Konami. It almost feels like they have a lot more. Basically just feels like they are much bigger companies than Konami and have a lot more financial backing with their games. But give me your thoughts, guys. Konami, for me, they're a strange company. They've always been a strange company. I've always found their games, like I said, to be cheap. The gameplay mechanics have always been really poor. But you guys might actually really like, the kind of gameplay styles of Konami. You might put it down to something completely different as to why the gameplay is a bit goofy at times, or to why they don't have licensing for certain things, to why Silent Hill's got cancelled. Like I said, they're not a bad company. Obviously, Silent Hill was a fantastic franchise. I think PES is an absolute awful game. I'm not going to lie. I think it was good on the PS2. I think since then it's been absolutely shocking, and it's literally tailed off completely. And it's, you look at PES, is there FIFA somewhere up here somewhere? Literally the standard of PES lately is awful. But look, give me your thoughts, guys and girls. Do you think Konami are a good game company? I would like to hear your thoughts. Like I said, I'll call them the pocket change company. But you guys might actually think, you know what, they're actually a good company. They've made some of my favourite ever games. And if so, let me know. But guys and girls, give me your thoughts on Konami. Are they the worst game company of all? I believe they are pretty close. Just not even due to the fact that they come up with bad games, because I think they've made some good games, like I said, with Silent Hill. But the gameplay mechanics are always really sloppy in Konami games, and that's what I honestly believe. But give me your thoughts, subscribe to the channel, and I will be back very, very soon with another interesting video. Goodbye for now, like and subscribe.